Today's video is sponsored by minerpool.pro. Out with the old, in with the new. Minerpool.org is now minerpool.pro. With the new name comes a new mining pool. Minerpool.pro is excited to announce the launch of their brand new pool for 𝐓𝐴. With Stratum support for Asia, Europe, US East, and finally US West servers. Finally, we can't forget about the new loyalty program by minerpool.pro to earn additional 𝐓𝐴 for your uptime. Go check out minerpool.pro's new 𝐓𝐴 pool today. What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, here we are. We're at it again, and with one of the most demanded and requested guests on this series, we do have VoskCoin. Welcome, VoskCoin.
You honor me, man. You honor me, but I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So if you guys aren't familiar with him, which if that's the case, I don't know what you're doing watching my channel, go watch his. But he is definitely one of the longest standing crypto mining YouTube channels on the platform. You know, there's quite a few, but he's definitely up there with over 1,200 videos since 2017. So I'm excited. I've had people on like BBT and a few other newbies, but you're definitely not in that category. You're kind of BBT style, one of the OGs. So I'm excited to have you on. So are you ready to jump into some questions?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So this part of we do a few different segments. This part of the segment is very let's build a background on you, help viewers understand exactly who you are. So first off, we'll talk about crypto mining specifically, because that's why most people are here. So based off of your videos on your channel, which took a while to scroll through and take a look and stuff like that, you've been in the crypto mining scene for about 5 years. I actually came across your first build with 470s. So tell us a little bit about that time period for you and your first mining rig back then.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the winter of 2016, 2017, going into that 2017 year. And I'll try to give you the short of it, but basically one of my buddies hits me up. He's like, dude, what do you think about Ethereum? You're normally into that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm not really all that familiar, but it sounds like something I'd like.
Yeah.
So then I started digging, and my weekend disappeared. And then I lost basically a week, and I was just really going down the rabbit hole. And I'm like, this looks cool. This is like the next Bitcoin, huh? And you can mine it with graphics cards. And so I discovered Bitcoin before. I thought it was really cool. I never got into it because I didn't think that the government would let something in my opinion, just revolutionary exist. I thought they were going to just stomp it real early and it would blow up. Was obviously not the case. Sucks for me. Should have got into it. I specifically remember seeing it around 2013. And, everybody's got that regret of the first time they saw it and they didn't get in.
Yep.
But it was specifically GPU mining that pushed me over the edge, because I didn't have much money. So a rig was really expensive and scary. And so it was like buying the coins, right? But I'm like, well, if I buy or build a GPU mining rig, at least I have this hardware. And this stupid backup plan of, well, if it all implodes, I'll take all 6 graphics cards off and I'll turn them into gaming PCs. I'm like, yo, this is Drew's used gaming PC lot. How you guys doing? Yep. Trying to recoup my crypto investment thing. It went terrible, but
that's awesome.
So that was my backup plan, and that's what really, that wasn't, for whatever reason, justified in my mind, that was enough to take me over the edge. And then I remember I mined my first Ethereum in 4 days, and I was
that's insane. That's insane.
This is cool. And I was looking at Ethereum, it had just gone to $8, and then it was going to $40, and I'm like, is it too late? Yeah. Have I missed the train?
Yeah.
And then it went 40 to 80, and my first rig paid itself off in less than a month and a half. And that was just crazy addicting. I'm like, here we go. Max out the cards, boys. We're building a mining farm.
Well, it's so funny because when I've talked to Bitsby Trippin, he actually said almost the same lines that you did regarding the fact of it takes that first deposit in your wallet to hook you. And as soon as you do, you're like pulled in even more, because it's like now you actually see the fruits of your labor, which is awesome too, because I saw you started with 470s. I actually still have 12 RX 470s, the exact same one, Sapphire Nitros. They're actually, some of these are actually more the mining ones versus the Nitro ones, but yeah, it's so cool to see, like, that's where you started how many years ago, and I still have those. They're on a shelf. They're not mining, but they're on a shelf.
Hey, you still got it. Have you seen, I mean, it was like, the cards are crazy hard to get them, but I always wanted to build, they had that light blue, like ice blue version of them.
Yep.
I'm like, man, what a beautiful card. But
I've only ever come across one of those. Like, I've seen them like for sale, like one-offs, you know, like on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, but never like, hey, here's 6 of them. They're like the unicorn of those Sapphire Nitros. But yeah, Sapphire Nitros have always been my favorite GPUs, only because 1, they're so basic, and 2, the fan replacements on them are like amazing with that one screw versus having to take the whole thing apart. So I've always been a huge fan and wished more manufacturers would actually go that route of like, hey, remove one screw, put in a fan. Like that would be a dream with GPU mining.
Yeah, but, well, I don't want to bring it up.
So we'll continue down our line here, you know, kind of going from there. So you first started with Ethereum and kind of watched things take off. You know, it's so cool to hear like that you saw it at such a low point there. So for you then, what came first then? Was it crypto mining or was it content creation? Because it seemed like that lined up with your first rig being your actually first video.
So I had a really simple mission.
Okay.
I was doing, from my point of view, something crazy.
Okay.
You ask anybody, they're like, dude, don't do that. That's stupid. Save your money. You're going to go bankrupt. That's a scam. Ponzi-nomics.
Oh, man.
And I was just like, you know, F you guys. So I'm doing this. And I wanted to make videos because I wanted to just kind of document it, because there wasn't a lot of information out there. And you brought up BBT, right? Carter, great guy. And I looked at some of his videos at the exposition of my journey, right? And I noticed a very clear, and then I looked at a couple other videos, or I looked for other GPU mining videos. And I found that there was a gap in content. There was no, we'll call it medium form content. All of Carter's videos were very long, and there were some other really short videos. But my preferred video length is about 20 minutes for like a technical subject. And I was like, oh, well, no one's really making 20-minute videos, kind of trying to condense it, hit the key points, elaborate some, but it's not an hour. And I think the long form stuff is great. But I don't know, I just saw that gap really, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, that's kind of the content that I would be into making. Previously, I made some car tutorial videos with, you know, detailing, car modifications, things like that. I enjoy making videos. It was a hobby. And so I was like, let me do this, and it also kind of double as like a vlog, and, you know, whatever way this goes, I can look back in a couple of years and laugh. Man, remember that time I did that GPU mining thing? And so anyway, I started at the same time because I was like, well, I mean, nothing's quite like the beginning. Let me turn the camera on. And I remember I think you watched my first video with the RX 470, and I'm sitting on my floor. I'm looking up at a camera. I just come home from the night shift, so it was I think it was 4 a.m. It was either 4 a.m. or 1 a.m. When I was recording that. And I was so excited though. I was like dead tired, but I was like, this is sick.
Didn't matter.
My GPU rig.
Didn't matter. Yeah.
And what's really funny is I didn't even sync it up to my address that first night. I did it wrong. I basically I put my address in, but I didn't restart the bat file. So the program never restarted with my address.
Oh,
so I was all pumped. Yeah, I was all pumped. I woke up the next day. I wasn't minding to me. Enjoy my electricity, man. But anyway, that's before I go on a huge tangent.
Oh, it's okay. So yeah, I think that's really notable to talk about the fact of like then, you know, like everything, based off my understanding, was batch files. You know, everything was worked off of batch files and stuff like that. I mean, I think you've been in the scene now long enough to see, even from the software miner side of Valve, what was the scene like back then? You know, I mean, I know like Bitcoin Talk was really like the place to be with the forums and stuff. But even the miners, I mean, I talk with people that mined back then, friends of mine, and they look at how it's mined now with GPU mining especially, and they're like, you guys have it so easy. Back then, it used to be so
difficult. Enjoy your GUI.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
I had to take coding 101, man. You know? So I love to learn. It's fun. I don't have a real technical background. Everything's self-taught. You know, for better and worse. It's made some of the journey a little bit more difficult. But so back then, it was just much more difficult. Things broke more often. It was just more sparse back then. And you spent a lot of time troubleshooting some of the most basic things. In ASIC miners, they normally have 3 pools, 3 inputs. So you can have, you know, your main one, 2 backups. And this miner, I didn't put in 1 or 2 of the backups. I just put in 1. And so the whole thing didn't work. I'm like pulling my hair out trying to get this working. I mean, like I was really overextended in this era too. Like if one thing, like 1 or 2 things went wrong, I really could have just crippled myself financially. And I'm like, dude, this needs to work. Why does this not work? And it was just, I think I even just figured it out of luck. I just put more things, more of the pools in there, and then it just happened to work. And I was just like, wow, what a frustrating issue. Yep. And there was a lot of products of just perseverance, from the rig builds to figuring things out. One PCIe riser goes down, your whole GPU mining rig is just now junk, and you were so excited. You upgraded to a 12 card, but now your entire net worth is offline. You know, like that. It was so much fun and such an adventure, but also so stressful. It definitely highs and lows.
No, you're right. It's funny because like you made a really good point. You talked about like, you know, back then you didn't have what you have now. Like when you run into an issue now or you're trying to set something up new, you just go to YouTube now, because there's enough content creators out there that somebody has created, you know, like somebody's created a video around it or has some information on it. I mean, I know for a fact too, like just as I started to get, I mean, I remember my first build that I did was like a full size, it was like a 12 card rig. I think it took me like 5 hours. Which is insanity to think, because I was like taking my time and doing this and doing that, and like, but I was referencing YouTube on things like, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? And it's like, but all that stress is there. And then when you power it up, it just doesn't work. Like it doesn't mine or something. And you're like, oh, and by that time it's always, I don't know why, but by that time it's always 1 a.m. It's always like 1 or 2 a.m. And you're like, yeah. Well, it's just, man, I totally understand. I think that's one of those things where like anybody looking to get into mining in any way, shape or form, especially GPU mining. ASIC mining is a little bit more plug and play with some hurdles, as you said, with your different pool fields, but GPU mining definitely has its caveats and challenges, and prepare for stress and long nights when you first get started, for real.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's nothing quite like the joy of like the tinkering aspect. If you get into it, it's really not for everybody. Some people want the plug and play. ASIC miners are perfectly suited for them. But like building your own rig, customizing a little bit, maybe you splurge for this car because it's got RGB. You don't have a rig that glows yet. You know, it's just the little things. It's kind of dumb, but it's kind of fun. You know, it's maybe I shouldn't say dumb, but it's like you get extra stuff. You can change your skin. You know, this is my white rig build. This is my RGB build. And it's like ASIC mining is so boring. It's like, look at my silver box. This is my other silver box. This is my loud silver box. This is my really loud silver box. And so
is that why, I hate to interrupt you, so is that why I'm curious, so this is actually a good segue. So VoskCoin has partnered with some brands to do some customizations, like the gold shell, for example. Is that why you led into that with RGB fans and like the VoskCoin logo on the side of those, or was that just mere coincidence? Because it sounds like your mindset was there, like you wanted them to look different and unique.
No, it's exactly that. I'm about to die from boredom with ASIC miner designs and naming. This is the S19 Junior 27 XP. Like, thank you, Bitmain. Can they they can hire me for free and I'll name their stuff. Like, come on. It's not that hard. Anybody could do it. But no, it's exactly that. I had approached GoldShell about that because I wanted to bring something unique to market. Really, it was initially just for my community, but they eventually gave me the option to make some more, and I'm like, okay, like this is cool. Let's try to like make this a little bit bigger. But I wanted a miner that looked cool, right? Yeah. And so like we got the case design, the basics, and I was like, well, at least it looks different, right? I mean, maybe some people don't like the design or whatever. It's not the point. The point is that it had a design. And that design has opened them up to realizing people care about that. And on the heels of that, they've done many other custom designs. They've done different box cases. They've printed on their boxes now and other things. And I really hope that takes root with other manufacturers. And I think in a bear market that we will hopefully see some, in a way, kind of gimmicks or marketing like this deployed, because the hobbyists, right? It's it's we want some customization. I think it would be fun just to see like just additional options. I know some people don't care, but some people do. And honestly, I'd pay another $20, even as just a drop down add-on. Give me a drop down add-on, right? Here's the standard one. It's $400. But do you want it in a black case, a green case for $420? I'd be like, yeah, I do. At least this one. And especially from our point of view, right, as content creators, something that looks different is fun. It's exciting. It's got that click factor. It's engaging. It interests me from the creation point of view. It interests viewers. Like shooting B-roll of like the 19th ant miner and it's just a silver box. I got excited that the fan shrouds are black. Do you understand? Right. Like that means I'm in a bad place. I got black fan shrouds and I was hyped. I was like, oh, this one looks different. So
well, it's funny you say that because it's very much the case like with their with GoldShell's like Mini Doge Pro. It's like that matte black. And I remember like you order it online, it still has the same picture as the Mini Doge, and then you get it. And then it's like, wow, this is matte black. I'm like, this is cool looking. Like, it's different. I like it. And it's like, it's funny though, because a lot of like home GPU miners and some larger farms, like everybody had the open frame setup and everybody was unique and you had your RGBs and your colors and your wiring mattered and stuff like that. And then along came like the server style of GPU mining with your chassis and cases. And we took all those cool looking cards and those unique designs and we close the lid on it and now you don't see it at all. And it's exactly the case. It's really funny. Like, you look at people's setups and they're showing off like open frames. You're like, wow, look at that. That's cool. That RGB's that. And then as time has gone on, especially as a content creator, it's like I love the server case style from the airflow perspective, from the density perspective, like how many rigs I can put in an area. But you're absolutely right. You can only show off an Octominer case or another case so many times. And it's like, here's the silver one and here's the black one and they look identical. Like there's nothing unique about them at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And it not to sound like a downer, but it just kind of gets boring over time. Yeah. From a user, a miner, and a content creator. And I just think there's a big neglect in this sector with things like that. And I mean, you look at the gaming sector. Yep. You get a gaming PC case, any flavor you could ever want. I mean, it's actually kind of crazy the amount of options that are there. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of overlap between that sector and our sector. I mean, a generalization, I'd say on average, like the majority of miners have gamed or game. Right. Yeah, I know a lot of gamers are crybabies, so not all gamers are miners.
Okay. Don't say it wrong. You got to get it, got to make sure you don't say that because, it's constant fight over hardware, which you can't complain anymore, right? You can't complain anymore. There's GPUs everywhere.
Yeah, the merge. Congratulations. Hope you're happy because we're not.
Yeah. Cool. So let's pivot a little bit. As much as I love the conversation, as I said, we could talk forever here. So let's talk about your mining farm evolution, because over the last 5 years, it's changed quite a bit, especially with your farm location. So kind of give us the rundown over the last 5 years between bedrooms and garages and sheds. Kind of give us the works.
Yeah. So the beginning of my mining journey, born out of my house, like all good mining journeys should begin.
Yep.
And so I was using my spare bedroom. I'd recently gotten my house, my first house. I was stoked. I was like, got my first house. Gonna do some crazy stuff here because it's my house. Yep. And you can't stop me now, Dad.
Right.
So rigging the spare bedroom. Cool. Okay. Got a Panda miner, which was like one of the earliest server style like GPU cases. Loudest thing on this planet, especially like for me. I never had anything really loud like that.
Yeah.
And I turned it on in my house, and it's just like, and I'm like, uh-oh. I work the night shift, man. I need to sleep.
Yep.
I don't sleep much already.
Yep.
So put that in the garage. Then I learned about airflow. I'm like, it's really hot in here. So then I opened my garage door. So I still hear this throughout my house for the rest of eternity. I've got it on a transformer, jumping up, 120 volt to 240 volt because it had an integrated, it came with the power supply. It came with, was only rated for 240 volt. And I'm like completely lost in the sauce right now. Like 240 volt. What you mean it doesn't work in the plug?
Yeah, trust me. I totally understand going back to when I started.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, a PCIe, but is that like a VGA? What do you mean they're the same thing? Why do they have different names? And I was just all those like such little things you never think about later on. You're just like VGA, PCIe, different voltages.
All these acronyms. What do they mean?
I'm just trying to mine an ETH, man. That Vitalik guy. But so I started putting rigs throughout my house.
Okay.
And I wanted to team up with two buddies. And the short of it is, I've had zero just good things coming from teaming with anyone. It's been a really solo operative mission. Okay. And it kind of sucks, kind of frustrating. I think some of it may be a product of when I got into cryptocurrency. There just weren't a lot of people were really skeptical. They were cautious. And I'm going in, face first, for better and worse. I'm all beat up, bruised, but I've got some rigs going. I got a couple coins in my wallet. And a lot of people, if they were going to do anything, they wanted to dip their toe. But I'm like, we got to go. I believe in this. Like, I mined 1 Ethereum in 4 days, man. The hash rate's going up. We got to deploy this stuff. Apparently, we're going proof of stake next year, 2018.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I remember I was on Bitcoin Talk, and there's a thread, and I was asking. I specifically asked one of the questions from one of my friends. I wanted to get involved with this with me, and he's like, and so I asked this question. I'm like, I'm going to go to the people because he was so concerned about Ethereum going to proof of stake soon, and people were basically saying, yeah, it's too late to mine, bro. It's going proof of stake. Just forget about it. You should buy the coin. You should pump my bags.
I've heard this before. I've heard this before recently. I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah. And actually, a funny comparison thinking about, I don't know, I guess to age myself with like the previous era of mining versus now is there weren't any real-time chat rooms and things like that. I'm not trying to be like, I was the first to do this, but the VoskCoin Discord server was, to my knowledge, the first dedicated Discord server to basically mining. I mean, technically it was for the channel, but our community was... My content then was entirely pretty much rooted in mining. And I expanded and branched off as kind of time went on. But, I'm asking questions on Bitcoin Talk. I got to wait, minutes. It's a long time for people these days. Hours, times a day.
Yeah.
Right? And, but I just want to say, I don't like Bitcoin Talk. They've employed a lot of censorship. And... basically, they started deleting a ton of my threads when I just kind of would post video links. But I'm like, why am I going to build your platform and enrich your platform instead of just turning it into a video, and then I have something that I can grow with?
Sure.
Plus, you guys are censoring my stuff whenever you feel like it. But anyway, sounds like
Reddit nowadays. You know, whenever you go on Reddit forums,
it's exactly how I feel. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
Yeah, it's exactly how I feel about Reddit too, and so that's part of the naming, like with the forum VoskCoin Talk is it was a nod to like the OG status of Bitcoin Talk, but it's also like an FU one up, like we're the new talk.
Yep.
So maybe a little petty, a little fun, but anyway, I'm getting off topic. So that was basically the mining situation, filling out my house, trying to figure it out, total run and gun, trying to get some buddies involved. I waited around a little bit, and it was just a mistake. So I pushed forward with everything I could do by myself. I needed to get this stuff out of my house. I'm like, let's get a shed. So I dropped a shed. I had no idea what I was doing. I put, I'm like, we move air out. We got to move some air. So I'm like, yeah, what's the best one you got, Lowe's? What's the best exhaust fan? Take 3 of them.
Yep.
Put them on the roof. It was so much suction. It was crazy. It would break your finger. It would slam the door so hard.
Yeah.
And like my intake versus outtake volume, what's math? I did it completely wrong. Which is why later on I cut bigger vents into the side of the shed, which helped with the airflow situation some. But anyway, I pulled some electricity in there and got the beloved 240 volt single phase, put up some shelves, and just started throwing miners in there. And one design in particular, we called it the trio. It was 2 1080 Ti's and a 1070.
Okay.
And I would put them on a gigabyte board, and it was actually, I kind of slightly modified a design from this guy named Philip from Bitcoin Talk. And so basically it was a riserless GPU mining rig build.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I had no density, but I had really ease of deployment. And so these things are rock solid. A lot of people ran trios for years and years, and they just were amazing. And it was just a very cool, simple design. It was like the first way to get not the first way, but it was a way to take risers out of the equation. My goal was like, how can I build a GPU rig with the least amount of parts?
Yeah, that's smart.
And it was that.
Yeah, I mean, we all know like risers aren't always like the most reliable, and sometimes they present challenges, and like, is the cable plugged in all the way and stuff like that. We talked about stressors there, and eliminating the additional cables, the mess, the cable management, the risers and stuff. I think that's a really smart plan, especially back then versus today. Yeah,
it was just it was easy peasy. I'm just done, done. When you get the when you got those old Intel CPUs, thermal paste is already there. Like it was very plug and play, and I'm good to go. Slap my USB stick in. I'd already configured it on the computer, and so it was. I really needed to simplify it because if you think of like gaming experience, I was level 2. Maybe out of like 50 or something. Yep. I still had a long way to go.
Yep.
So later on, I would take those and I would build them out into 6 GPU rigs when I like became more comfortable or I needed more density, or I was like, why would I buy all the components when I can just flesh this out? I really just need a frame and some risers and a different power supply. So that was my build for a while. Things got really tough in 2018. Okay. People who weren't there don't understand just the general like aura. Maybe not aura is not the best word, but it was just miserable.
Okay.
I mean, it was miserable. Everything was depressing. Everything was effed. Profits were awful. My electricity rate was jacked by my electric company by 40%.
Oh. So
I'm losing. So that like pushed my rate to almost like 15 cents per kilowatt hour in 2018.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it was really discouraging. And I love mining, and I'm trying to figure out like, where do I go from here? How do I survive? And you think I was long term focused then. I didn't have the conviction I have now.
Okay.
But I still had the conviction. I stuck through it. I saw a lot of people, just miners, users, content creators all leave, and I'm just I'm feeling like that meme, that dude, he's like sitting on the swing and then he's
Oh,
looking
yeah.
over here with his hands behind his back, and I'm just like, you guys coming back? Or
Yep.
Yep.
Well, it's so funny because, and we can pivot. It's fine. You're talking about it, so I think it's great. One of the questions I had for later on, but this is a great opportunity to talk about it, and we'll come back. Is like with the bear market. So this is my first bear market. I've only been in the scene for a little over 2 years now. So I came in at the height, and this is my first experience of like super low profits. What are you even going to mine? Things like that. How do you compare this bear market, and you talked a lot about content creators leaving, things like that, this bear market versus the previous one that you experienced?
So it's very, very different.
Okay.
And the global take on cryptocurrency has changed so much. There is so much money still pouring into the crypto ecosystem. There are still projects raising millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case in the previous bear market. People were like, dude, crypto's dead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out. And there's so many big players. There's so much big integration. There's so many more on-ramps. There's so much more exposure. And it's just more mature. And I think every cycle, the upside is going to decrease, but the potential for going to zero, right, is fading away.
Yeah.
So, you're more likely to hit a 10x for the next cycle compared to the last cycle, like with maybe a 20x, right? But in this bear market, your coin isn't going to go from, say, like $1,600 to $70.
Yeah, correct.
It's probably going to go from, that's $1,600 to like worst case at the bottom, maybe like $600, right?
Yeah.
And that's very vague. Yeah, obviously,
sure.
Tons of variables there, but the point is like your downside risk is lower, but that's going to lead to a less explosive upside as well. In my opinion, it's just kind of like the basics of like economics and things like that. But so that's kind of relaxing and reassuring, and it's like you have like the Lindy effect, right? The longer something exists, the more likely it is to continue existing, which is like, it sounds almost like stupid simple, but it's true. It's like, well, they've made it this far.
No.
But the sentiment sucks. And it is finally getting bearish. I think we're getting a big global, just like kind of depression era, like squeeze.
Yeah.
And people are running out of money, and they're not getting stimmies right now.
Yeah.
And other things, and inflation is real and is hit. So everything's more expensive. So what's one of the first thing that goes? Extra things. What's an extra thing to an average person? Investing or mining, right? Because mining is really just kind of investing, in a different kind of way. I mean, you're investing in the hardware to earn coins and whatever else. And if your budget is consumed with your groceries and fuel, you're not buying a rig. Yeah, you're not buying some Bitcoin. Yep. And, that leads to lower prices, slumping prices. People are selling reserves. And everybody talks about all this diamond hand stuff, but that's all nonsense. If somebody needs money, they're going to sell their cryptocurrency.
Yeah, they're going to liquidate it in order to cover costs. Yep.
And the government can print money. I can't, so I got to come up with it from somewhere.
Yep.
And I think this winter could be really tough because a lot of people may be sitting on coins that they've been hoping will appreciate this year, but there's a lot of tax liability from a good first quarter. I think we'll see a lot of sales based on that, but then again, the market sometimes makes no sense. They hike the rates and then the market went up. They hike the rates and the market goes down. We live in a weird world, but to round out your question, this bear market it's definitely a bear market, and over the last 2-3 months, I think it's finally getting actually bearish. And I noticed some capitulation. I noticed just a huge general decrease in enthusiasm.
Yep.
My profitability with everything from the YouTube side to the mining side is in the dumps.
Yep.
And I've got an annual sponsor I have 2 annual sponsors that are like the basis of, this will pay our bills, so we'll be good.
Yep.
One dropped me. They've had XYZ reasoning.
Yep.
The other one, basically market conditions. And
which is normal. You're one of the first things to go when you're talking about, from a business side, the marketing
see you
side.
later, market spend.
If people aren't buying hardware right now, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's definitely the case. I could totally agree with you. I mean, you brought up a lot of really good points. It's like people aren't buying hardware right now because that's an additional ad there, like versus groceries or gas or necessities. And I think that's also a direct reflection onto the YouTube scene you talked about too, because it's like you don't have new miners coming in right now, versus like the flip side for me when I started content creation. Man, it was the height of stimulus checks. We were over 2.5 years ago. People had the extra income to spend. So they were like, oh, here's a stimulus check. Let me go buy some rigs. How do I set these up? Let me check YouTube. So it was just like the perfect storm for me coming in. So now looking at it in the bear market, I almost wish I started YouTube in a bear market so that I kind of would learn, especially with mining. Like now's a great time to get into mining from the perspective of a learning versus I started and anything you plugged in was making money 2.5 years ago. It was like, so yeah, I could totally understand where you're coming from, where just even this short term, just the differences, let alone go back to the last bear market, it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. And I will say that I think it's good you came in then versus now, because it's just not that exciting now. you buy stuff, you lose money, you plug it in, the value went down, the coin blew up, Ethereum can't be mined, Bitcoin difficulty all-time high. It's just like it just feels like there's no good news and there's no relief. And we're just sitting here dreaming of the next cycle. Whereas like when you come in a bull run, like you get that euphoria, you get the hype. You're like, yeah, this is crazy. I make more than my day job.
It's nuts, isn't it? It's nuts.
And now you got to work a day job to support your mining hobby.
Yes, 100%.
It does a full 180. It's like, I'm quitting. See you later. I'm a miner now. It's like, hey, I need a job. I'm a miner.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so funny. Like when I first got into the scene, and like YouTube definitely was significantly more profitable than where it is now because the views were there. You look at your analytics now, your views aren't there, and more importantly, your like non-subscriber views aren't there, which is a point of like new people in the scene or people discovering you. Yeah, isn't that funny? Where like before it was like great, like all this infused money, crypto was flourishing, it was profitable, you could sell it off as you need to if you wanted to buy hardware, and now it's like, oh, you're running lean and skinny everywhere because of that, which I can agree with. And yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I feel like we could talk about the bear market forever, but let's pivot a little bit back to your farm because I'm most interested in that, to be honest with you. So we left off talking about your shed. I'll be honest, I watched some of your shed videos before I did my own shed design, just to get some ideas. Real quick though, on your shed, what do you think, based off of what you learned with your shed, were some, hey, these are some do's and these are some don'ts when it came to your shed?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest do, and it's a little, I don't want it to sound like a cop out or a lame answer, but the biggest do is, I'm going to pull the Nike, like you just got to do it. Like if you want to get into this stuff, like don't sit around for months and months and just wonder, like just get into it at whatever exposure level you can handle, whether that's a couple $100, couple $1,000, whatever. I mean, if you want a GPU mine, get a graphics card. If you want to get into ASIC mining, and I don't want to sound like the gold shell shill. Right?
No, it's fine.
I make no money if you buy a gold shell miner.
Yep.
But their box miners are really cool. Grab a box miner for a couple $100. Doesn't even matter what coin it mines in the beginning. Like they have like some of those miners on there are so cheap. They're like $120 now.
That's crazy.
And so, try it out. Like it's just a lot of fun, and I really want to see. This is a quick aside, but I've always wanted to see it. I still haven't seen much of it. I want to, maybe I'll try to do something like myself, but I want more gamification of mining. Like, I want a pool that logs, how many miners I've connected to it, my total hashes, how many coins I've mined, how many blocks I've hit, how many days I've been a miner, my biggest streak of consistent mining on the pool. Like, give me a leaderboard. And like, let's make it fun.
That'd be cool.
Let's get back to spec mining. And I think there's a big disconnect with miners about mining the most profitable coin. The consensus is mine the most profitable coin, sell it into whatever you want. And I think that's terrible for the long-term health of mining. And I'm not saying I haven't done it and I don't do that. I'm not a pure soul, right? And I don't want to masquerade as one.
Yep.
But what's the point of being mineable if these other guys are going to mine your coin and just dump the hell out of it because they like this other one better?
Yeah.
Other than just the benefits of proof of work and the security point of view. But my point is, I think the gamification would help incentivize long-term mining and just, use and support. And I'd love to see a coin implement some kind of like ramping rewards, or basically like the longer you mine it, you basically can mine more of it, which would, I think, incentivize smaller users, especially, to stick with it. And if you stick with the coin, you're probably going to get involved in the ecosystem. You're going to join the Discord. Maybe you're going to write a Medium article. Maybe you post a tweet thread about it or a YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're incentivized with this gamification. And now you're building out their ecosystem, and now the project's growing in like a very organic manner. Yeah. And I feel like that stuff is like really missing. And
yeah, I know there's a few pools that do some like uptime loyalty programs that will incentivize with like GPU mining. Like, okay, if you have X amount of uptime for a certain period of time, you're rewarded extra, flux or extra ergo, whatever, which is nice, which is definitely cool. I do like your idea of some type of leaderboard scenario, but it's not just like hash rate. Like everything is weighed differently. Uptime and longevity, like how long you've been on the pool, and hash rate and uptime. Taking into account all these different factors to make it more fun and rewarding. And I think you're right. Like, once we get past just, hey, I want to spec mine this and build a bag, and we actually inject in interaction with the project, I think that's the difference. I think there's a big difference there. Yeah, it's cool to definitely going down that rabbit hole. So back to your farm a little bit. Your shed you were talking about. What was something in your shed where like was a big mistake that you made, where you're like, I'd love for viewers to know, like, don't do this? Because in the shed, because I've had plenty of mistakes. So like I built this like mining room next to me. Huge, biggest mistake, biggest waste of money versus just jumping to a shed. Like that was my best decision ever, was get it outside your house. But in your shed, anything come to mind? You smiled like, hey, this was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. Let me. This is a teaching moment.
I really had a just half-assed filter element.
Okay.
I put up a bug mesh screen and all kinds of gross stuff got into my rigs. And when I sold a lot of my hardware at one point, everybody was making fun of me calling it Vosk dust.
Oh,
and
man.
It's like, yeah, like, bro, I don't even know how you made a GPU this dirty. It looks like I threw it across the yard.
Wow.
Wow. There was pollen, bugs, dirt, whatever, dust, of course.
Yep.
All in there. And it gets worse. So I had the bug mesh up, and then when I added more intake vents, I never put anything in front of them. So they were just wide open.
Okay.
And I was like, well, we already dirty. We call this the dirty farm. There's no data center.
Yep.
And my stuff was disgusting. All of my gear developed a film on it. I'm talking anything. Wow. Like if you like ran like your fingers down like a portion of the Ethernet cord, you're like,
oh
what
man,
is that? Is that the scum?
It makes me want to go clean my rigs right now, like right away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that. Yeah, I actually just replaced my filters yesterday in my shed. I will be honest, I watched that video of you talking about your filters and everything like that on your shed, and I remember that with like at the bottom there and trying to get it set up. It's like I think a good thing you could say from your learning experience too is just thinking things through and not half-assing it, because it comes back to bite you later. If it's power, if it's airflow, if it's filtering, any of that types of stuff.
Yeah, there were definitely just some pieces along the way that just kind of got put down and never really picked back up, like the filter situation. It's a result of me always being heavily invested into a lot of different projects at the same time. I do anything I do, I do it wide open for better and worse. And I've consistently stretched myself too thin over the years, which I think is going to kill me soon. But
yeah, I know how that feels. Yep.
Whatever. It's better to burn out than fade away. I wish that. No, I shouldn't say I wish, but kind of moving forward, I'm going to tidy up the loose ends.
Okay.
I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to slow down. And that's kind of been a focus with the new farm I'm building, is I'm trying to do things right, do it once. Like, I would have been way better suited to just have a dirt path to my shed. Yeah. But I splurged to run gravel to it, which gravel is pretty expensive these days, and to get anyone out there to do that kind of work and everything. And like, the road to my shed costs more than my shed. Like, that's weird, right? And financially reckless in a way. It depends how you want to operate and like how tight you want to be. But like, one example is when I had my electrician out to set my meter base, it was raining. He could only get there and do the work that day because I had a gravel path. And I'm like, this is bigger scale. I need to be serious about this. I'm building this once. I'm building it right. I'll have easy accessibility to this and trades at any point at any time with a proper drivable road. It's not needed for everyone, of course. And there's different ways to go about it. And you can be a little more wild with it and be like, I'm not wasting my money on that. That's X amount of rigs I could buy. And that's true. And maybe that guy's going to pass me. Like, younger me would pass me. Yeah. Right now. Yeah, I operate like more conservatively, more slowly. Yeah. But I don't know, you can only like run at like 110% for so long. Like I feel like I've been like dying inside. Like I
sound like every content creator right now. Like that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. I've been like, you think I was spending, my energy, I was spending my health, my life points. I ran out of all that. I'm like spending my soul. Yeah, right. I'm using energy that doesn't replenish.
He's a gamer when he has those references, 100%, which is, I think, cool. So you're jumping ahead on your farm, which I think is awesome. So let's kind of get to there. So you had a house, you had a shed, you were mining out of there. How do we go from that to your current project, which I'd love to talk more about? So what was the journey between the shed and now?
So house one, shed.
Okay.
Mining shed. Conjoined. Mining shed did not make it to house 2. Okay. I basically sprung for a house that would be better suited for us in a better area. And whatever else. And I make the mistake of trying to team up with someone. I was supposed to collab with my boy on a mining farm.
Dang.
And he had a decent electric rate. He had the spot. Said he had the interest, and it just it was astonishing. I showed him everything. I thought we were good and everything, but once we actually fired up the miners in volume, he's like, "Dude, this is way too loud. I don't like it. My neighbors don't like it. I'm out."
Oh, damn.
To be honest, it really screwed me over because, I'm working on 100 things again, and so then I basically make a makeshift mining setup in my garage, which was supposed to be a stopgap. I explored buying a property very like a small acre lot and dropping it actually had a trailer on it.
Okay.
And I was like, sweet, I'll just convert that into the farm.
Yep.
But I couldn't, it was the bear market and I couldn't get them down to a price that I would spring for.
Okay.
Like I was just a little too cautious. I didn't want to take on like some serious debt, a big endeavor. I've never had investors, partners, backers. It's just, it's all self-funded. It's all grassroots. And it's just, I wish I would have been more aggressive, but I wasn't. And so, I explored that. I explored another property that was near me. And these things, they just end up taking way longer than you think. And months go by, and then you may be a little burnt out. You take a step back, and then, whatever else. And before you know it, I've had this garage mining farm for way too long. And it's completely just stagnated my growth on the mining side. And so... It was a great stopgap, and it's a great little simple, small scale, non-intrusive. You're in an HOA kind of community. You could do something like this and get into the game without going too crazy. Nobody would ever be the wiser, except my house always has this weird, like, ominous hum to it.
I don't know. I have a jazz miner in my garage. I don't know what you're talking about. Like I totally understand. As Rabbit Mining calls it, the mosquito miner, because it's literally what it sounds like. The 𝐋𝐢𝐳𝐬. It's like that's what's in there, and I don't want it anywhere else. I don't want it anywhere else. It's just so loud. So you're garage mining for a while. So then after garage mining, how did we get to where we are today, at least with like your build out and stuff like that?
So I've been trying to buy land and build a mining farm and power it with solar since I saw COVID looming.
Wow.
So I saw COVID looming in like November, December of 2019.
Okay.
And the writing was on the wall. I'm like, oh, this is going to be, they're going to blow this out of proportion. This is going to cause all kinds of issues. We're finally going to get this big downturn. I'm going to scoop up some land cheap and finally work on the master plan.
Awesome.
And so then they wrote stimmies and everything went the opposite way and everything started to skyrocket, which is just kind of infuriating from my calculated, I thought, point of view. And everything went the opposite way you would think it would. But apparently we're all dying, but cars and houses are at record high prices. But I just don't understand, man.
Yep. Yep. You're trying to plan ahead. This was your plan. This is the avenue you wanted to go. Yeah. And the world came along and screwed that up for you.
Kinda, I guess. It's I rolled the dice and lost, I guess. But so I eventually found a lot that I was going to try to make work. It was, long story short, is it just didn't. And it basically, they built a neighborhood, and there was one lot left over that was 50 acres, and it was a weird shape and other things like that, but it was super cheap for the size. Yeah. And it already had hardline internet running on the street because it was ran throughout the neighborhood. Wow. Electricity was going to be a short pool, so I was like, that's going to be no problem. I'm like, this is like dollar for dollar. Win-win. This is like an area that I'd want. Everything's here. This should be pretty easy. But then I got into this huge war with the HOA, and I swear to God, I could have taken them to court and won. But like, I have other things to do, and I'm a cool guy till you cross me, and then I hate you, and then it's personal, right? And if you mess with somebody's money, that's messed up. Like this isn't business. This isn't a hobby, man. This is like, I'm building out my livelihood. Yeah, and you're in my way. So, unfortunately, I closed on that property because I wanted to secure it. Okay. And I eventually backed out and sold it. Fortunately, I was able to sell it and pretty much just wash out. Okay. But then, that pretty much burnt up a year between the hunt, the buy, the drama, the sell. And now congratulations, it's 2021. 2020's gone and flown by, and I'm glad I'm catching up on Survivor, So then I find another lot that I think will get it done, move on that lot, but it's a very raw lot. I've got to build out everything. I mean, I've been waiting months just to get the electric company to pull the power out there that I need. I'm fighting to get hardline internet out there. You know, whether you love or hate Elon, shout out to Elon. I got Starlink. You know, so I haven't used it yet, but they force me into paying for it every month, or they say I lose my spot.
Oh my word, that's.
I've been enjoy it, Elon. You know, you say Starlink's not profitable, but where the hell's my money going? Because I'm not even using the service. But anyway, so you know, it's I don't know, it's just crazy. So I'm finally, my ribbon cutting event, if you will, is hopefully this month.
Wow. Okay.
Hopefully, I'm gonna have the stuff powered, internet wired up. You know, everything checked off, filters installed.
It's like start fresh. I like it.
Because if you don't filter it from the beginning, there starts to be no point. It's like, well, we're going to keep the dirty gear clean.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm hoping to get that stuff turned on. And once I get everything situated and running, then I'm going to start getting very serious about building out some solar panels, because my electricity rate's nothing to brag about.
Yep.
And solar energy is really the only play for me. It's just really that, or it's just really that simple.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's where I'm at with that. It's definitely been a crazy journey. A lot of highs and lows. On the mining side, and kind of unfortunately, due to my situation, I had to take a step back on the mining side because I just couldn't. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do what I wanted to do and needed to do, and it was always waiting and permit and this and closing, you know, research. I mean, like, to go out to a lot and evaluate it, especially once you add some acres, like, it takes hours and hours and hours, and then like you scrutinize over it all night. Like, is this the one? You know, because my plan is super long term. Like, if I put solar panels down, I can't leave. Those aren't. You know, there's no shitcoin, son. You know, there's no hope for me to pay this off next week if we hit it big.
Yeah, you're playing you're definitely playing the long game there. Once you get into the solar, and it's not just a few solar panels. You know, you're putting quite a few arrays out there. So would you say right now, in the current state, with just your projects going on with your builds and stuff like that, and with the bear market, do you have a majority of your rigs off right now that you own?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Most of my gear's off, and it's pissing me off. But I have been scooping up more and more Bitcoin miners because their prices have plummeted. Bitcoin miners, for what they hash, is cheaper than it's been in like 3 years. I think is more or less the metric. Definitely since like the bull run and the kind of time preceding that. So. The more I think about it, the more I look at my electric rate, I think I need to get really serious about some kind of immersion setup, get my electric costs down, get my overclocks, get my clocks up, overclock.
Yep.
And I think that would probably be the best, intermediary solution until I can produce some of my energy.
Yeah.
So, then that puts me at a more profitable ratio per kilowatt hour of my electric rate and all that stuff. So
you thinking about doing immersion then in the shed, or kind of where's your head at with immersion?
So I'm thinking I'm either going, I'm so mad that this is, I guess it's a bit of a pivot. So, things change and you got to adapt with it.
Yep.
But I'd set up my shed to just be set with air cooling.
Okay.
But I don't want air cooling and immersion in the same area. I'm gonna, even with filters, I'm gonna dump a bunch of stuff into my tanks.
Yep.
So I'm looking at maybe cutting the shed in half and doing half air and half immersion. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze it in there without making it a total cluster. And if that's the case, and I'm probably just going to bring in, I almost feel stupid, I'm going to look like I got my own village out there. The village miner.
So. New name, village miner. So you're going to do like another building then, or another shed?
I might just... I'm it's actually on my to-do list over the next week is to get some measurements and go out there and really map it all out and draw it out and see if it's truly feasible. If it's not, I'm just going to drop another shed and move on and be like, whatever,
Yeah, I know your lot's set up for it. I've watched a lot of your videos. I enjoy them, kind of walking your lots, talking about the progress and stuff. I know your lot is set up for another building for your village. So I think it's smart. You're thinking ahead, like even ahead, it seems so close. You haven't even had the first shed set up, so it's a wise decision to do. It sucks having to do it during a bear market when profits are not as fruitful as what they would used to be. But it sounds like you have your head on though as to like the future. Like we talked a lot about the past and how we got to here, and now it's like, all right, you have a lot of options. Between solar, between immersion, between the shed mining, and which is great, which is phenomenal to hear.
Yeah, and I think this is what I've been thinking about late at night. Is like, do I ease off the gas some, right? Because it's like, you can push and push and push and push, but sometimes there's just obviously a better time to be more aggressive and to be more extended. But you don't want to miss the opportunity to expand when most people aren't expanding.
Yeah,
and so. Right. Obviously, I'm not stopping, but I think I'm going to ease off the gas a little bit on like how many miners I wanted to deploy, get set up, get situated, work out the bugs. And my main focus is also building out the infrastructure, having the rack space, having the electricity there, having the immersion tanks, having some solar arrays, right? Like get everything set up. And then if there is an incredible opportunity, I think that is, presents itself or on the horizon, then I'll jump in and I'm ready.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm maybe shifting my focus. And, I think things will go crazy again. And I want to fire to be able to pour fuel on that.
Okay.
But, I don't want to run out of gas in the bear market because, it gets paying like, kind of floating the bill month over month over month, year over year, it really starts to hurt. And, the cash reserves only run so deep. So
yeah. And you know what? That sounds a lot like a lot of these mining farms that we hear that are going under, that are liquidating, we see a lot of that where they have, unfortunately, because things have pivoted and changed, they've gone ahead and now they're liquidating their crypto, which was not their plan, in order to cover operating costs, and operating costs aren't even generating enough revenue to cover cost right now, and it's just a vicious cycle for them. And so I think it's hard as a miner, as a content creator, to look at the current situation and see this hardware for dirt cheap and not buy it all up. I agree. Expanding a little bit is smart, because it's like, man, if I can expand now, then I can, the next bull market, I'll be sitting in a better place than what I am. But you also don't want to over leverage yourself, which I can totally understand from there. So something you had talked about in some of your videos in bear markets is diversifying. You talk a lot about that, and you talk a lot about, on your side of things, your vision is more ASIC driven versus GPU driven. Give us some context as to what drove that decision.
So for me, year over year, Ethereum's core community, I guess to round up and call it, especially like the dev community and just most people that on Twitter say .eth, okay?
Yeah, yep.
They don't like Ethereum miners. They don't like GPU miners. They don't appreciate them. They don't value them. Obviously, I don't want to sound like beating the dead horse. I know, no longer mineable, we're moving on. But that, I don't want to sound too dramatic, but that toxic environment drove a lot of decisions and changed my mindset on a lot of things. I thought Ethereum was so cool among some other coins, and many of them consistently wronged me and other miners.
Yep.
And it got to the point where I just didn't see enough value in any remaining GPU mineable coins to stick with it. Okay. And when you lose your passion with GPU mining, which unfortunately I did over the years, it's not fun anymore, and it's just kind of a burden, and you just become negative, and it's there's a much bigger time commitment to GPU mining.
Sure.
From the rig building to the maintenance to everything in between versus an ASIC miner. It's magnitudes more involved. If it's profitable, if it's fun, that's fine. But it was no longer that profitable.
Yeah.
And it was no longer fun. And the writing was on the wall that Ethereum was moving to proof of stake. Like actually finally sometime soon-ish.
Yeah.
And hardware is at all-time highs then. It's so hard to even get the stuff. That was like to contrast like the old and the new, like in 2017, even though like it was going crazy, with a little bit of perseverance, you could get the cards you wanted. You could even likely just get them off Amazon.
Wow.
They could all be the same.
Yeah.
You could get them at retail. Get that shit in 2 days. You know,
that was not the case in the last bull market. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And like, it's not like I'm not the TikTok generation. I'm not like rooted entirely in instant gratification, right?
Yeah, sure.
But like, it's not fun when it's so difficult to even get this gear and you can't pay MSRP. You know, everybody but you is making a ton of money along the way, from the manufacturer to the initial reseller to the scalper. You're just like, this is pissing me off. And so that was like like my interest in the projects were dwindling rapidly. The availability for the gear was getting more difficult and more expensive. And then I always just my head got put on a stake consistently with content creation as I would talk about GPU mining, and I can't get that gear. Must be nice to be a YouTuber. Yep. Oh, who's your connection for that one? I don't have that, or whatever else. You know, there's millions of comments.
Disconnect. Yeah,
and it's just like, you know, I make the content because I want to, but it's ultimately my goal is from the beginning has been to have fun, document my journey, and share my experiences, reviews, opinion, and just try to provide a resource and just help to others. Because I know what it's like to be in this hobby and have no friends that are in it. You feel kind of alone, and the great way is to connect with others online. And, you know, I wanted to be a positive source, right? And I noticed I was becoming a bit negative on the subject, to the point I'm like, I kind of just need to move away from this.
Yeah.
But also, as I'm trying to create these resources, it's like people are just dunking on me. I'm like, well, like, all right, like, fine. Like, fine. Like, I get it. Like, I don't know what to say now. Like, I know the hardware is marked up. You can't do this. It's not as fun for like a noob who's viewing your content, a beginner.
Sure.
When they can't copy and paste all of your exact hardware, right? CPUs flying off the shelf. Mobo is even kind of sometimes hard to get. Power supplies, you know, lucky to get one. Graphics cards, you know, that's the secret sauce. Where do we get that? And so before, with my videos, I can make a rig build and you could turn around and buy everything that I used. And that's fun and that's engaging. And then they can share their rigs that's, you know, look the same or a little customization. I'm like, that's sick. Where then, you know, it became, you make yours, people give you crap because they can't get the same stuff. And then they have to piece it together, and it's not as good of a resource. And it's just a negative vibe across the board. And anyway, without going on and on, pretty much just everything, you know, just kind of became worse to the point I just wasn't interested in it. And, you know, investment it's not investment advice, you know, we got to say that stuff.
That's right. Yeah, right.
You know, money-wise, it just wasn't making sense to me. And I had limited power availability. So I can't, that's the one other thing. I can't keep building and building and building these rigs. They have nowhere to go. And there was a period where I'd build rigs, test them, review them, whatever, and I would turn around and sell them. And then I'd get a lot of like negative feedback, like, oh, like, what are you getting out of mining? Or, oh, you're just a YouTuber now. You're not a miner. But I just don't think people were like fully understanding of my situation of, I guess, trying to walk this line of like, I'm a miner and a content creator and I'm out of electricity, but I want to make new builds. But now I'm a shill douchebag.
Yep. No. It's like the perfect storm, unfortunately, for you. So I can totally understand. I mean, especially I think like now it's so hard because it's like electric rates are so high. The interest isn't there. You don't have new miners coming into the scene. And so it's like, now GPUs are plentiful, but they're not profitable. So like people don't, consumers and users and viewers aren't interested in like, here's a GPU, but it makes 3 cents a day. It's like, you know what I mean? Like that's a really hard part right now. I mean, versus, so it definitely is a challenge overall. So I have 2 last questions to wrap things up here. The first question is, someone approaches VoskCoin today and says, is now a good time to get into crypto mining? How would you answer that question?
Tough.
That's how you'd answer it. Got it.
So, short answer, long answer.
Okay.
Short answer, I love mining. I love proof of work. I believe in this stuff long term. Absolutely. Get into mining. Figure out to what exposure level of it you're comfortable monetarily. Okay. Because at the end of the day, it's that money factor that's going to probably stress you out. Yeah. You put $1,000 in, all you have is $1,000, it could drive you crazy. Mm-hmm. You put $1,000 in, got more than that, maybe be fine. The long answer is really, it depends. I think you need to be passionate to be in mining now, because the profits alone aren't going to just keep you captivated. Mm-hmm. Making 3 cents a day, that ain't going to do it.
Nope.
Some of these ASIC miners pull a couple bucks a day, right? Some maybe a little more, some don't, depending on your electric rate. They cost thousands of dollars for the more profitable ones. That's a big commitment. You either just need to be looking to truly diversify and you have the funds and you have some conviction, but this is not get rich overnight. And, mining rigs are turning into more of a traditional investment where they take years to pay off.
Yeah, especially right now. Yep.
But, is the tech going to outpace it? Because I can assure you, Bitmain, one of the biggest miner manufacturers, is trying to make a better model to sell you to invalidate their old ones. Yep. Because they're only as good as the best shovel, the best drill, right? And so, it's big money's in mining now, and it sucks. And these major mining farms, and people think it's cool that there's these publicly traded mining farms and stocks and stuff. But guess what? That's your competition, and they have millions and millions and millions of dollars. They have cheap rates. They have everything you don't probably have. And that's your competitor. It's like you pick a sport, right? You put on a football helmet, but congratulations, you just stepped into the NFL. You're probably getting laid out, but don't worry, the minimum payment. But like it didn't used to be like that. Maybe we were playing college ball. Maybe I was a high school star and I can kind of get along till I pull my hamstring in college. But I can't compete with the NFL, and I can't compete with Core Scientific. And apparently Core Scientific might be going under.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so it's the most depressing thing ever to be like, you should probably just buy the coin. But it's tough. You need to be truly interested in mining to get into mining now, in my opinion. Okay. Otherwise, it's just not going to work out for you, and you're likely to make the wrong moves. Like spec mining is still cool. It's interesting. It's exciting. But there's a surplus of hardware, and there's still too many people interested in mining. In 2018, so many people capitulated and they just dumped their stuff. Yeah. Now there's so many people that still hold this like conviction to mining. They're like, I lose $20 a day with my GPU rigs, but I'm not turning them off and I'm not selling. I'm like, dude, you zealots are why we are in such a weird, tough scenario. I respect it, but then you're pissing me off because you're the reason I'm not going to buy some GPUs right now. Because we're getting some availability, but there's still way too many just like GPU mining zealots. And it's not just the small guys. A lot of these major farms are like, we got the gear, we got the electric rate, we can bleed longer than anyone else.
Yeah, well,
so find a coin, Timmy, and mine it.
Yeah, it depends where they leverage themselves. Like a lot of these places that are going under leverage like their entire financial plan based off of like Bitcoin being 69,000. And now that where we are now, and now they're over leveraged, so they have to sell off hardware in order to pay operating costs, but then they're not making money, and even cashing out Bitcoin, it's not paying for it. So yeah, I when I talk to people, I tell them like right now is like the purge. Now, I've never been a part of a bear market, but in bear markets, it is a purge. Like you have people that go ahead, they sell their equipment, they're out. They just can't afford it and they're done. You have others that power down and they're like, I'll come back when things are profitable. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I had somebody the other day I was talking with about, is now a good time to get into mining? And I think you hit the nail on the head where you just kind of said, it depends where you are financially. Like if you want to get into mining and your mindset is 2 years ago, where it's like, I plug it in and I could pay it off in a month or 3 months, it's like, that's not going to work now. But if you're like, hey, I got some extra cash, I'm still stable, I'm good, I don't need this cash right now, I can invest it into some hardware and then check back in 2 years or 3 years when I pop my head up, and you're okay and you don't need to play with it, then great, feel free to get into mining. I've even pushed people the direction of like, look at some of these, like once again, gold shell, but look at some of these mini ASIC, like the gold shells or the iPolos. Like if you're literally stepping your toe in, maybe don't go the more technical route with GPU mining and look at some of these mini ASICs. They're plug and play, they're wireless, they work anywhere, low voltage. And if you don't need the money, you're not going to be asking me 3 months later, why is this not profitable? It can be a challenge.
Absolutely. And, if you go the easier, less technical route, like getting like a little ASIC miner that's more plug and play, challenge yourself other ways. Like that's a good point. Run a full node wallet, because that used to be required. Everybody's living these light wallets and centralized, exchange wallets and stuff like that. But like run a full node wallet and do some other things to get acclimated, because you quickly forget how overwhelming cryptocurrency is when you're getting in. Like everything is daunting, scary, and if you do it wrong, you lose everything. Yeah, right. There's always build your rig wrong, maybe my house will burn down. You set up your wallet wrong, you lost all your money. I mean, we got the house and the money on the line.
Yep, risk. It's risk. It definitely is. So let's wrap this up. We're going on about an hour and 20 minutes. The last question I have for you is just, and we've learned a lot about it, but what's to come for VoskCoin? What's coming down the pipeline for you, the brand? What kind of comes to mind that you're excited about again?
So for me, I've done a lot of things over the past few years, and I've done a few things a lot. So,
good way to put it.
My words of wisdom or lack of wisdom.
Yep.
And I've learned a lot about myself, what interests me, what I want to do. And I really pushed myself like way beyond just my like tolerable capacity in the last couple of years. Okay. And to the point like I damaged my health. Like I damaged my like personal life, work-life balance, relationships, just everything in my life has been damaged, while I basically have kind of knowingly and unknowingly traded it out for a financial pursuit through cryptocurrency, and also just what I consider just chasing success, which is building a brand, a business, whatever, something that can do anything. And the result is I've been incredibly burnt out, and that's what, like when I talked about earlier, like I feel like I literally spent my soul. Like I struggle to be interested in many things that interested me before. I'm not depressed, but like when I read the definition for depression, like I think I check all the boxes.
Okay. Okay.
I've burned myself out to the point I'm like I felt very numb.
Okay.
And I've taken a step back and then another step back, and I'm really just trying to hone in my focus of what do I want to do? Where do I go from here? Like the question of what's next.
Yeah.
How can I get back to having fun? How can I reformulate the channel to be less work, but somehow also hopefully provide more value to the crypto community. And, so for me, I'm changing some of my content directions. I personally hate short form content. I don't like it at all. I'm like a content boomer now. And
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to do to adapt and deal with that front. I genuinely don't like it. I joke to our team, I'm like, I'd rather retire than make TikToks all day.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And so, but I'm worried. I'm worried. Is this like where I finally get phased out? Because you look at content creators, a lot of them come and go. How do you adapt and evolve and maintain relevancy? And how much do I want to pursue that and care? Like, is this my end game, or do I want to look at a different end game?
Yep.
A lot of things in my brand have been lacking. We haven't. I wanted to redo the website, and my website's just been gone for years. It just redirects to the channel.
Yep.
No website. I want to get back to being a resource and being a hub.
Got it.
That was the original mission with Bitcoin. Was the channel was like supposed to be kind of the heart, the pump the blood, but like the website was supposed to be more of like the brain and like kind of pump everything. Like, here's a resource. I wanted to make my own ASIC miner value, a better version of it for years, and kind of like a what to mine and some other, just a lot of things like that, or like difficulty charts, just things of resource and value, and that kind of update in real time, so people can access them and use them as they please for whatever reason. I want to get back to that. I want to get back to building, right? They say build in the bear market. I want to just work on some projects like that I personally find interesting and others will benefit from. And so a lot of my focus right now is on the farm, because I'm trying to not only do this, effectively and efficiently, whatever, but like I'm trying to make it fun and like just really get back into it, because I truly do love it. That's why I'm still here. That's why I've never skipped a beat. Most channels have gone away or have taken breaks, whatever. I've never stopped since I've begun, because like I'm into it, right? Yeah, and so for me, I guess it's kind of maybe doing some brand building, trying to build out some resources, and from there. I've always toyed around, like, I've always wanted to build out, like, a blockchain, a protocol, and other things. I mean, maybe there's a reason I put coin in the name, right? It's the dream's been here from the inception. Okay. But whatever I do, I need to believe in it 100% and be all in. And have the capacity to do it. And I've got to close out some of my existing projects to be able to like truly open these other ones and do them well. Because if you don't do something well, someone else is going to do the same thing better, and they're going to beat you in it. And but yeah, so for content, looking to kind of shake it up a little bit, try to make it better, maybe slow it down. I want to get back to doing some more written content, even though our focus is video, but I really enjoy making written content. My content creation was actually born out of written guides for detailing and car mods and things like that. Got it. So I like making stuff. It's fun. Like if I'm going to sit here for a few hours, I want to look back and be like, hey, I made this. This was cool. I hope somebody likes it. If not, I guess I got a resource to refer back to for myself. So I guess content creation is like definitely always been there for me and been a big evolution. And I don't really talk about that. And I think maybe some people don't realize that, and that's why like I've been so interested in mining and also the content creation. Yeah. Because one of the biggest criticisms I've gotten over the years has been, you were a miner, but now you're an influencer. And I'm like, don't you ever call me that dirty word. Okay, I'm a content creator. All right. 20-year-olds on TikToks are influencers. All right. That's right. The girl with a big butt on Instagram, she's an influencer.
There you go. It's very true. Yeah, I think it's definitely, well, first off, you definitely sound like you have, a lot of projects to come. But I think you have spoken a lot about focus, like focusing on these individual things, which is, I think, definitely important. And that's exciting to see what's to come. And a lot of projects on the plate, which is great, all beneficial to us as miners. And then the second thing you had definitely talked about there was just, the identification portion of just, hey, you're a miner and a content creator. And I know there's sometimes a struggle for viewers even to identify that, like, wait, all right, which one are you, when they're watching you or watching your content? It's like, well, I kind of have to balance a little bit of both. I have to balance both. And sometimes mining is like now, rigs are powered off, so there isn't as much. So you kind of have to put on more your content creator hat versus, when things are different, you got to throw back on your miner hat. So it's definitely a constant battle and balance. But guys, that's going to wrap things up. I think we could have sat here and talked forever. Like, there's so many questions we didn't get to, which is totally fine. Like, that's why I like this type of format. We'll just kind of see where things go.
Too much.
Yeah, which is awesome. So guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave, if you have not checked him out yet, which I guarantee if we were to look at a comparison, most of our subscribers are the same audience. But if you haven't, I'm going to put links to all of his content directly down below. Please go over and check him out. Follow him on Twitter. He has a big following on Twitter, over 50,000. Check him out on YouTube. He has 1,200 videos within the content creation and mining space. So you can't get bored. Go over and check it out. VoskCoin, I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you very much. This has been a ton of fun. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, help out the YouTube algorithm, give it a thumbs up, and finally, don't forget to subscribe. Take care.
Hey, thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure. And can I throw a spoiler in that?
Go for it. Spoiler at the end.
What about, how about we have the hobbyist miner on the VoskCoin channel?
Ooh, I like it. I like where your head's at. See, I like it.
Like you touched on, maybe in person.
Ooh.
Go crazy, East Coast boys. Let's go.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. We'll see in the future here, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Octominer and 9 other YouTubers are going to be giving away 10 prizes to 10 lucky winners. Each YouTuber has their own custom design that has been created and will be available for sale starting on November 1st. There will only be 50 shirts of each design available to buy. Each t-shirt purchase will be worth 50 entries, without any limit on the number of shirts you can buy. You don't want to purchase a shirt? No problem, we got you covered. There are free ways to enter just by clicking the 𝐓𝐨𝐝 URL link down below in the description. We will also be giving away a portion of the proceeds to the Water Project Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization unlocking human potential by providing reliable water projects to communities in sub-Saharan Africa who suffer needlessly from a lack of access to clean water and proper sanitation. The Community Crypto Tuber 500 giveaway will run from November 1st to November 29th. Those will be the available dates to enter. We will be having a live stream on YouTube to select the winners randomly using 𝐓𝐨𝐴 on Wednesday, November 30th. Good luck!